guys! So in today's video, I want to talk about my August reading wrap up. So I'm just going to be going through all the books that I read in August. This month I listened to a lot of audiobooks because I started back teaching, so I didn't have a ton of time to read physical books, but while I was doing chores or cleaning up the classroom or whatever I was doing, I did listen to a lot of audiobooks. So as I go through each book, I'm not going to be rating them by stars, but just giving you kind of the vibe or the feel of the book. You'll see. But let's go ahead and get into today's video. Let me know what your favorite read of August was, and let me know if you have read any of these books. So let's start off with the books that I have physical copies of. And the first one would be The Duke and I, which is the first book in the Bridgerton series, aside from the prequel, which is Queen Charlotte. So I have watched all 3 seasons of Bridgerton on Netflix, and I decided to go ahead and finally pick up a few books from the series, and I wanted to go in order, so I started with this one. I really enjoyed this book. I will say the descriptions of the characters are obviously a lot different. There is no representation of any other race besides white in this book. I'm just gonna let you know, if you enjoyed the series because of the representation, yeah, that's very absent from this book. I will just tell you. I personally, though, I don't know about y'all, but I imagine Simon to look like this and nothing less, okay? We're not gonna accept anything less than this. So anytime it would say Simon has blonde hair, blue eyes, I was like, no, cut the show, no. Okay, so I still had a fun little time because I just imagined it in my head the way that I wanted to imagine it, and there you go. One of my favorite things about this book is the banter between Mr. Simon and Miss Daphne. Come on now, come on. This is also a fake dating trope, which I love. And also it has the protective brothers trope. Not brother, singular, but brothers, plural. So what's better than 1 protective brother, but 3 protective brothers? Sorry, 3? I think so. Bridgerton, like, as you know, the Bridgerton family has a lot of members. So if I were to give this book a vibe, okay, if I were to give this book a vibe, because I'm reading on vibes right now, okay, I'm gonna say it's a cup of chai tea on a winter day, okay? You're sitting, just imagine, you're sitting by the window, you're curled up with a blanket, you have a cup of chai tea with a little bit of cream or milk or sugar, like one of those little sugar cubes, and you have a plate, you have a little plate under the cup of tea, you have a little spoon, you have a little biscuit with it, okay? So it has a little bit of spice, right? Because chai tea is spicy, so it has a little bit of spice. This does have a little bit of spice, let me just tell you. And it's not the best thing that I've ever tasted. Like, sure, would I rather go to my local coffee shop and get me a nice little latte? Yes, but I liked it. I liked it. It takes a little bit of work to like get into and like, but it has a little spice. It's comforting. It's giving very demure vibes because obviously this is set in England, right? Right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so that's why the tea, okay. I've said all I need to say about this book. I think if you're up for a little spice, if you enjoyed this season, if you like banter, if you like fake dating, pick this book up. Next, we have A Simple Favor. This was a reread for me. This was $13.58 at Walmart at the time whenever I bought it. So there you go, inflation. Am I right? Am I right? Anyway, I've been thinking of Mrs. Blake Lively because of It Ends With Us movie. So I was like, remember that movie, A Simple Favor? Oh wait, it was a book that really got me into reading. Like, this is one of the books that really got me into reading. So did I enjoy it as much as when I read it in high school? No, but that's because I've read a lot of books since high school. So this doesn't match the other books that I've read. I would say this is like a thriller mystery. Yeah, that's the genre. This is also a reread, and it's really hard, I will say, to rate mystery thrillers after you've reread them because you already know the twist. There is something twisted in this book. Okay, I will say that. There's a little bit of a twist in here that is it's a little icky. It is a little icky. So just beware of that. Don't say you weren't warned. I can't remember. I can't remember my shock level when I first read the ending, but I have read several books like this. So like, I feel like I could see the end coming, but again, like it's a reread. So I really can't rate a reread. Let's be real. Me taking up all my phone storage for this. Okay, so if you want to know the vibe of this book, if you want to know the way this book makes me feel, it feels like a big pair of black sunglasses. It makes me feel like driving around town, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to infer, read between the lines. That's something I'm teaching my kids in school, is to infer and read between the lines. So that's the vibe. It's like very sneaky, very, it does talk about an element of like one of these characters, one of the couple, like the main couple, one of the main couples, I guess you could say, in this book is more on the rich side. So I'm like, it's giving a little bit of high class. No body, no crime. It's giving no body, no crime. There you go. There you go. Okay, so let's move on to the books that I either listened to or read on my Kindle. So the first book that I listened to this month was The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. I absolutely adore Lynn Painter's young adult novels. So this was my first adult romance of hers. Now, I will say there is a bit of spice in this one, but me personally, I just press that 15-second forward button, 15 seconds forward, okay, till I feel like it's over. I will say the love interests have a deep friendship, bond, emotional connection, so I'm not mad about the spice. So let me set the scene. Hallie and Jack have a night together, if you know what I mean. She ends up crawling out of his room. She's just sneaking out. They reconnect and they decide we don't have feelings for each other. We're just pals. We're just bros. They start going on some dates with other people. It's not working. It's not clicking. But through this whole process, they've just got this, well, it's called the love wager, right? So they have this bet going on who can find love first. All the while they're hanging out, becoming besties. So that's this book. Well, let me think of the vibes of this one. The vibe of this book is hanging out with your best friend, eating tacos at a Mexican restaurant. And I'll tell you why. Because, and this, I think this is on the Goodreads description or the dust cover or something, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but Jack and Hallie, now I'm second guessing myself. Maybe it's Haley, I think it's Hallie. So I'll tell you why eating tacos at a Mexican restaurant is the vibe of this book. Because after each time one of these two people, Jack or Hallie, have a bad date or they want to like, you know, dip out on a date, they text each other, oh, okay, can we like eat tacos after this? And then they get together and they debrief with tacos. So a fun night with your friends eating tacos, that's the vibe. Okay, the next book that we have to discuss is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So this was my first Riley Sager book. And might I say I was not disappointed. I was thoroughly creeped out by this book, but also thoroughly intrigued. So the twist really got me. The twist really got me. And this is one of those books where there's no clear villain. Like, multiple characters involved do something wrong. It's not clear cut. It's not like you're in the wrong. There is a trope in there. I don't want to mention it because I don't, like, it's a very creepy trope and it has to do with horror books, but I don't want to say in case it's a spoiler. But I will say at this point, I had my headphones on at one day when I was decorating my classroom, setting up my classroom. I was there by myself. Nobody else was at school. This was before the school year started. I literally threw off my headphones. I was like, I can't. So that's how creeped out I was. If I were to give a vibe of this book, it would be night swimming by yourself. I personally don't think I've ever done this, but once you read the book, you'll see why. But obviously it's a house across the lake, so we've got a lake involved, and it's like a fun little time, you know, like it's an enjoyable time. Like I had an enjoyable time reading it, but you're always looking over your shoulder. You're like, who's there? I thought I was supposed to be alone, but I just like had this thought of like, there's somebody here. Okay, so let's talk about It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. The hot topic that everybody is talking about. I'm the hot topic on your tongue. I'm the rebound getting round, stealing from the young. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. So I have a physical copy of this book that I annotated, but I'm lending it out right now. So this is my second rereading of the book. I listened to it the first time last year. I felt like pretty much the same way about it the second time that I did the first time, which is some of the dialogue is very cringy to me. I almost said Raphael. Not Raphael. He's always going to be Raphael in my mind. If you know, you know. But Ryle. I've never met an individual named Ryle, but if your name's Ryle, there you go. Some of the things he said, I was just like, this is cringy. Some of the things Lily said were cringy. For example, when they meet on, and this is like very, very early on in the book, so I think I can say this, but when they meet on the rooftop and she is like, why are you up here? Are you heartbroken? Or whatever she says. And he's like, I wish my problems were as trivial as matters of the heart. Like, no one says that. No one says that. Let's be real. Okay, now let me cut this negativity out, okay, because that's my piece on that. I really like the overall message of this book. Of course, check trigger warnings on this one, in case you haven't seen anything on social media about this. To me, this beautifully explores how the blame is misplaced in situations of domestic abuse. It's placed on the woman, like, why do you keep staying? Well, instead of asking the question, why do men abuse people? Now, of course, I'm speaking about the book specifically. I understand that domestic violence goes both ways. It can happen either way. But that's just what this book explores. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed the exploration of the cycle of abuse and how it can be passed down from generation to generation, and just generational trauma and how that can affect a relationship, and just how it's not clear cut. Like, it's not domestic abuse or any type of abuse is not just clear cut as in like leave them, break up with them. And I think that it shows how even perpetrators of domestic abuse are people and they have a reason sometimes. I mean, I'm speaking about this book that causes them to continue the cycle. So for that reason, I enjoyed the book. As you can probably tell, it's the next day. I had to split this video up into 2 days because I read 12 books in August, and that is a lot to talk about in depth. So back to it. The next book I read was The Light We Lost. Centers around Lucy and Gabe, and they kissed for the first time on 9/11, and not the anniversary, like on actual 9/11 in 2001. So they kiss, and the beginning part's kind of explaining like why that they're justifying that to themselves, like, oh, it's okay because that we kissed for the first time, even though this tragic event happened, because it made us realize that, I don't know, like, we don't have that much time in life and anything can happen. And that makes sense. So I'm not invalidating that, but I don't know. It just started off a bit, you know, a little bit weird. So anyway, they have this bond, right? Because they spent 9/11 together. And he has a girlfriend at the time, and then he like doesn't talk to Lucy anymore. Then he ends up like breaking up with his girlfriend, and then just like, and I don't think I'm giving too many spoilers because this happens pretty early on in the book, but this whole book is centered around like them having this connection, but they're in different relationships and they just keep coming back, and it's just a little twisted, a little toxic. And to me, it just like, upon reflection, it makes me feel as though they were justifying their actions. I won't go into too much detail because they spent this traumatic event, this traumatic day together. Next book that I read in August was The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Now, this was a very highly anticipated release for me, and I know a lot of other people. And I enjoyed it. I have some thoughts, naturally. So one thing I will say about this book is that the main character, Anna Green, she is just so unapologetically herself. Like, she'll dye her hair whatever color she wants, pink, purple, I don't care. She loves art. She's an artist. She marches by the beat of her own drum, okay? She does not conform to societal norms. She has no filter. I love it, and I'm very much here for it. The love interest, West, I like him too. I like him as a character as well. So I'm rooting for the couple the whole way through. The spice was a lot. I will say that. It did seem like this is one of those books where, for me personally, it overshadowed to me the emotional connection that they could have had. Like, yeah, threw in at the end like some type of like emotional connection they had, but like it's so much spice that it's like I feel like like I said, it overpowered it. It started off a physical attraction and it kept being that way till like the end, and I'm like, what? Like, no, they could be like talking about their trauma. I will say I liked the exploration of complicated family ties, complicated familial expectations, norms, things like that. That element to me, I really liked. I feel like I was pretty happy with the ending as well. So that was something I liked about it. The vibe of this book is when you're feeling cutesy, you feel like you want to go to the beach, so you're wearing a bikini, right? Well, you get to the beach and you want to go swimming. So you want to get into the deep end of the ocean. You want some depth, right? Like I wanted depth in this book. And when you try, your bikini just gets ripped right off you. And that's what this book felt like for me. It's like, I feel exposed. I feel like, why am I knowing all of this intimate details about these characters? I don't want to know what that's just me though, because I'm not a spice girly. If you are, you probably would love this book. But for me, the depth was missing. Next, I want to talk about Happiness for Beginners. So I've read this one on my Kindle and I really like this book. Upon reflection, I feel like the more I sit with it, the more that I like it. So, you know, sometimes you just read the book and you're like, I don't know to rate this. I just really don't know. I feel like that was like that for me, but like the longer I sit with it and realize like that I actually think about it on a, I won't say day-to-day basis, but like I sometimes think about it. So I think I like it. I don't know. So this book is centered around Helen, and she is going through, or she just went through a kind of messy divorce. So she decided she wants to reinvent herself. So she signs up for this hiking trip, this kind of rigorous hiking trip, and she ends up, and I did talk about this, I will say, in my last video. So when she's going on this hiking trip, her brother's best friend, let me get this right, her brother's best friend tags along with her. And he's, I think it's like 10 years, maybe not that much, but he's definitely younger than her. So it's like an age gap romance. And yeah, he ends up being a little love interest for her, which again, you can see that pretty early on in the book. And some things transpire on their hike. I don't want to give too much away, but she ends up being the oldest one. I think she's the oldest one on this hike. So she just feels very out of place. I liked it. I got a lot of quotes out of it. I highlighted. So of course the vibe of this book has got to be when you finish a hard workout, whether it's a hike or what, and you're sweating and the endorphins are flowing and you're like, I did this. I did not know if I could make it through this, but you know what? I did it. There may have been some falls along the way, but I made it. I'm a queen or a king. So I read The Castaways by Elin Hilderbrand, and this book is centered around this friend group, okay? This friend group. And two of the friends, Greg and Tess, I believe it is, they go out on an anniversary date on their boat and it capsizes and they tragically drown. So after they drown, a bunch of tea is coming out. So there's cheating, there's complicated friendships, there's discuss about divorce within this group. All of this is within the group, okay? I can't remember how many individuals there are, but there's like several couples in this group and they're just all interconnected. So that's my only critique of this book, is it's just so hard to follow, because it's like, wait, who is married to who likes who's cheating on who with who, and who, what, and there's kids involved, and it's like, wait, who's kids? And then it's like, just like, it's like, I'm seeing, if you've ever watched Pretty Little Liars and you go in A's den and it's like it's very confusing. you know, that's the vibe. Enough said. If you're thinking about this book, yes, it's like a Nantucket novel, but you're thinking of one of those things when you're a detective and you have the yarn and it connects to all the people. And if I had to pick a meme for this, it would be the math lady, the blonde math lady, insert here. Okay, so the next book that I read was The Spectacular by Fiona Davis, and I absolutely love this book. I'm not saying that it was a perfect 5-star rating, if you will, but I really enjoyed it. This book centers around Marion, who gets this opportunity to become a rockette because she loves dancing, but her dad is not cool with this. So she also has a sister, and her sister is like a corporate girly, and it's a historical fiction. So this is like back in the day. I don't remember when, so that's why I'm not specifying, but it's back then, back in the past. Okay, so this is in the past, right? Historical fiction. And her dad is not down for her becoming a rockette, but hey, she does it anyway, because why wouldn't you? This is centered around women empowerment in the workplace. It also has a romance element in it that I really enjoyed and was here for. And I felt like the love interest, I didn't know it was going to be the love interest. I was like, okay. It is a little traumatic because it also talks about the Big Apple bombing. There's like this bomber that keeps just randomly bombing places, and there's casualties, and it's very sad, and it's emotional, and it's gripping, and I loved it. I feel like in the middle, maybe it got a bit slow for me, but by the end, I was like, what is going on? I need to finish this book. I'm on a cliffhanger. I need to know what happens. I was fully invested in these characters. So the vibe of this book, I'm going to say this is like, it's like red lipstick. Ladies, you know what I mean. It makes you feel bold. It makes you feel empowered. It makes you feel like, yes, I'm a boss. Yes, I can chase my dreams. I can make that bread. I can have the man I want. I don't care what anyone says. Okay, so the next book that I read was The Summer Affair by Elin Hilderbrand. I have lost count of how many Elin Hilderbrand books I've read at this point. I love her, adore her, think she is a terrific storyteller, and her character development is unmatched for me. So, The Summer Affair, it is about cheating. If you couldn't tell from the title, I won't say it's all about cheating, but it does have a cheating trope. So just be aware of that. I do feel like I really connected to the main character, other than the fact that she's having an affair. But Claire is the main character, and she's a glass blower, which I thought was super unique. I've never read a book where a character had that job, so I just thought that was cool. She also has kids and a husband, obviously, so she has a hard time just balancing, like having work-life balance, and she pushes herself to the limit. So she is like a perfectionist to a fault. She overworks herself. She's like a yes man. And so this book is centered around her saying yes to hosting this summer gala, whatever. And she's overworking herself. So I personally relate to her a lot in that regard. So this book was an interesting read for me. Now, if I were to give this book a vibe, or what does it feel like? It feels like a sunburn. Now, hang with me on this. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it feels like good at parts. Like it's warm. You're enjoying the sun on your face. Obviously, it's one of Elin Hilderbrand's summer romances, Nantucket reads, you know the vibes. So it feels like being on the beach, you're enjoying the summer. It's fun, it's cute, but then you get burned. And that's what this book is like, because again, we have the cheating trope, so sunburn. Okay, I'm so excited to talk about my last book of August. So that was Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. And this was, I'm pretty sure, my first fantasy that I made it through, like my first true fantasy that I made it through, I'm pretty sure. And I really enjoyed it. I really did. So I listened to it on audiobook, which is another big win for me, because I am usually less engaged in books that I listen to on audio, and this was a fantasy plus audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. So I feel like this book is tea. So this book has to do with Dora, And little Miss Dora, she gets half of her soul, obviously taken from her when she's a young girl. And I won't like go into all the details, obviously, but she's just navigating life kind of being, it's almost like she's just atypical. Like if it wasn't a fantasy world, I feel like it would translate to being atypical. So she's a little bit socially unaware. She doesn't have much of a filter, and she doesn't feel things the way that other people feel things because she has half soul. But that actually ends up, I don't want to spoil too much, but I love her. I think it makes her such an interesting character and makes her so genuine. And although I listen to an audiobook, I want to buy it so that I can annotate this book because it's just so sweet. There were so many quotes that I like that hit for me. The romance, top tier, chef's kiss for the romance. Almost a perfect rating for me. Near the ending, it got a bit slow, but I still really enjoyed it. The vibe of this, I hate to say it, but it's giving, and I don't hate to say it. I actually don't hate to say it though, actually. I don't care. It's giving the Tortured Poets Department. I don't know why, it just is. And that's the vibe it's giving to me. I think specifically of like the Bolter. It's giving that vibe to me because it's just like, started with the kiss, so we must stop me like this, like, but it always ends up with the town car speeding. I feel like she didn't really get to connect to anyone before until she met him. Like she's always like bolting, or maybe she's not specifically, but it's like she's not opening up to anyone. And then the love interest, I don't know, I don't know. She just seems like a tortured poet to me. So that's my vibe. All right, guys, well, that's it for today's video. So I'm very curious to know, do you enjoy me giving just a vibe or something that this book makes me feel as a rating for the book? Or would you prefer for me to give you a rating out of 5 stars? Let me know in the comments below because I'm interested if you guys liked that or you didn't like that. Also, please let me know what other videos that you would like to see from me. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and if you liked them or not. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed today's video, and I will catch you guys on the next one.